History of Hair Additions BCE, or Before Common Era, by Nora Damaris. Ancient Egypt. Hair additions existed as early as 3400 BCE in ancient Egypt. Archaeologists found them on a female human remains, and in those days they were made from dyed sheep wool, vegetable fiber, and human hair. They were worn by all genders, by mostly upper class, like especially pharaohs. They were often worn for special occasions as well as everyday use. Having full, long, voluminous hair was part of the beautification process, as well as status. It meant that you had wealth. Life in ancient Egypt. Wigs would help prevent head lice, sun damage, and the mesh-like foundation made them breathable. Wigs became a way of maintaining ritual cleaning within temples. Egyptian priests would shave their heads every other day, and the rest of their body as well. Egyptians would wear natural colored hair additions as well as colored. Colors they would have were bright blue, red, and gold. Cleopatra's famously favorite color was peacock blue. The color that you chose and how you wore your wigs or hair additions, braids, and knots would indicate your age, religion, social status, and they would also wear them to cover shaved heads, baldness, bald patches, and thinning hair. The construction of wigs in ancient Egypt. This wig, the biggest one right here in this image, is the most intact wig. It was stolen by the British Museum and is still there now. Okay, so how it was constructed was, by this one specifically, was entirely human hair, no wool or grass, which would make it extremely valuable. Human hair was comparable to gold and was probably gathered by trade. So at first was cleaned and separated, and then put on a wooden mount, and the mesh was made from braided hair by layering it crisscross. Then resin and beeswax would be used to hold it together. Then hair was weaved in through the braids. When a modern day wig maker recreated the process, it took him 200 hours. Wigs then surprisingly weighed the same as they do now, about half to 1 kilogram. Here is a video. Hopefully it opens. No. The Avambo people. Hair extensions spread throughout Africa from Egypt. For many generations, hair extensions were used in traditional braiding. In this specific community, it was spiritually, religiously, and aesthetically important. They would have had extensions down to their ankles. This was a ceremony for girls when they turned 16, and they would undergo representing their coming of age and their fertility. They would use sinew when doing the extension, which is an animal ligament, as well as shells and feathers were used to decorate the hair and other natural things or pieces. Greece and Rome. In both civilizations, wigs and hair extensions, like in Egypt, were a show of their status, a sign of great beauty as well. Think of all of the Greek statues of goddesses and gods. They all had beautiful, long, luscious hair. Wigs in both civilizations were used in theater to differentiate, to tell the difference between different characters in the performance. Using the rules of society then were styled, colored based on the character's age, gender, social status. Both would use gold thread and pearls as well to decorate their hair. So in the Greek community, Women with long hair was a sign of femininity and seduction. In Rome, color of wigs had meanings. Blonde wigs were mostly worn by sex workers, and men would wear blonde wigs onto the streets when looking for sex. Unfortunately, most wigs in Rome were made from taken hair from slaves. The short hair would mean low status, and the long hair that was stolen meant that they were high status. Roman wigs were also big and elaborate, with lots of designs made with braids and bright colors. The height of the hair would make them look tall from the back, and the opposite in the front, which would make them look short, which is something they wanted for some reason. To accomplish this height, they would sew the wig directly on top of their natural hair. They would have gotten their black hair from India and their blonde hair from Germany, and they would also use animal fur, as well as human hair, from slaves, to make these wigs and hair extensions. And here are my sources.